Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, I happened to hear the exchange regarding the 501c4 regulations, and what we're requesting is everything up until the regulation was issued. As you know, it was issued on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, the proposed regulation. So what I'd like, not to interfere with the regulatory process, but to get all communications up until the regulation was issued. I think you should be able to comply with that without having any interference with the ongoing process. So I would hope you would comply with that and cooperate with the committee in that regard.
As you and I discussed, I am anxious to cooperate with the full committee as well as this subcommittee, because I do think we have substantial joint interest in improving the operations of the IRS. My point was,
thank you. I heard the point, and I want to move on to something else now. Commissioner, the Obama administration's tried to blame the IRS's targeting of conservative and Tea Party groups on low-level workers who were confused about how to process their applications. And on Sunday, the President claimed that the targeting was based on 501c4, a 501c4 law that people think is confusing, and that's a quote. And frankly, that assertion I find a bit confusing because nowhere in our investigation have we found that to be the case. I'd like to display an email. Are you aware that when a screener in Cincinnati first alerted his superiors to certain Tea Party cases in February of 2010 that he didn't do it because he was confused? He said in his email, and I'm quoting, and it's displayed on the screen, "Recent media attention to this type of organization indicates to me that it is a high-profile case," end quote. So did you know that it was media interest and not confusion about the law that started this?
I did not know that. I have not been participating in any part of the investigations. All of this happened obviously before I started. As you heard and as we've discussed, my view is that we now have 6 investigations going on, 2 in the House, 2 in the Senate, the Justice Department and the Inspector General. My goal is to get everybody the information they need to get these investigations closed and to determine what the facts are.
Okay, well, then I would certainly urge you to go back and look at the facts, to read that email, because in addition to flagging it because of media attention, the Cincinnati worker correctly quoted the IRS's procedures regarding the processing of these kinds of cases. He was clearly not confused. He knew exactly what he was doing. And it was Washington, D.C. that told him to hold and sit on these cases. So I understand that when new subjects pop up, sometimes people are unsure how to react to them. But again, that isn't the case here, and the rules for 501c4 organizations are well established. Do you know how long the rules have been in place for these organizations?
The statute was passed some time ago. In 1959, the Eisenhower administration made the determination that the wording exclusive in the statute, which could be interpreted in a lot of different ways, including no activity, should be interpreted that exclusively engaged in social welfare activity should mean primarily. And since 1959, that has been, excuse me, the standard, as I understand it.
Yeah, so these, these have been in place for more than a half a century. So the IRS and its employees have been dealing with these groups for a very long time, and I think it seems like a stretch to claim the agency was confused after this long. And I frankly give the employees of the IRS more credit than that. Now, are you aware that IRS employees in Cincinnati were actually processing cases before Washington, D.C.'s involvement? They were actually processing them through to completion?
Mr. Chairman, we've, I gather, provided you over 500,000 pages of documents. I have not looked at any of those documents. My view is that for me to try to track through all of that and catch up with everybody is not a productive use of my time. I look forward to your report. As I said, I think the facts will be what they are, and we will respond to them. And so I will guarantee you I will read the report and we will respond to the facts. But it doesn't serve my ability to manage the agency to go back in time and try to look at any particular activity.
Frankly, I think this has a direct bearing on the management of the agency. It's a fact that Cincinnati was approving Tea Party cases before getting orders from Washington, D.C. to hold them. And they were processing them without delay and without intrusive questions. Now, through our investigation, we've identified examples of applications coming in subjected to review and approved from conservative and Tea Party groups that were approved within 3 months. And it was only after Cincinnati highlighted this high-profile media attention that Washington, D.C. got involved. And it was only then that these groups were subjected to what I would call inexcusable delay and harassment. And it seems there's a pretty clear fact pattern that's developing here. And it wasn't confusion. It was Washington, D.C. that caused conservative groups to be targeted and harassed. Now, the attempt to mischaracterize the targeting is being driven by confusion, or as the President said, boneheaded decisions out of a local office, and that's a quote from the Commander-in-Chief, is bad enough.